All right, we are now joined by Arda Ocal, who covers the NHL for ESPN, is the host of Sports Center. Arda, unfortunately, no big Ranger news that we get to talk about today. Nothing really that happened in Ranger land that's worth a conversation, but thanks for
Yeah,
joining us.
really dry. It's unfortunate. The timing sucks, but here we are. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, obviously, the big news is the Rangers acquiring Vladimir Tarasenko from the Blues for Sammy Blais, two conditional picks, as well as a defenseman. The name's blanking on me for a second, but just your quick thoughts on that trade. And, everybody wants to think of, who wins what trade, who wins, who loses. Just, how did this make the Rangers
Well,
better?
Nico Mikola, I believe, is the
Mm-hmm.
defenseman. So uh, I believe that this makes the Rangers much, much better. You're adding a phenomenal right winger, so you're bolstering that right side, first of all. Second of all, you have somebody who could really be a top line scorer, somebody who is offensively minded. That's something that the Rangers they have a lot of great pieces there, and this is certainly a complementary addition to that. And I mean, it wouldn't like if you told me that, let's say Tarasenko started the season with the Rangers and he was leading the team in scoring. I don't think many people would be that surprised by that. Last year, he was fourth in the NHL in points per 60. I know that this year he's stumbled out of the gates a little bit, but just remember, there was also not an ideal scenario for him. Of course, he's a professional. He was playing the games, but when was the first time we heard that Tarasenko wanted to leave St. Louis, right? So now he gets a fresh start. Him and Artemi Panarin are friends. He joins a great roster, and this is one thing that I will say for the Rangers fans watching right now. I'm looking at their roster now, top to bottom. Imagine a scenario, and we talked about this prior to coming on the air too, Steve. So you know that I'm going to say this, but imagine a scenario where every playoff team gets their optimal output. I'm not saying everyone's 100 overall like in NHL 23 or something. I'm saying for where they are on the roster, for what you think would be their best contribution to the team. Imagine every player on every team was giving that level of output. I look at the Rangers roster and I see, first of all, goaltending is on lock. Shesterkin, many nights, is the best goalie in the league, right? Adam Fox, many nights, battling with Cale Makar, best defenseman in the league. You have Jacob Trouba, who's one of the most physical players in the NHL. You have a great forward core with Mika Zibanejad and Artemi Panarin and Chris Kreider. That going back to that scenario, Chris Kreider, when he's firing on all cylinders, we saw what he did last season. And Vlad Tarasenko, yes, he's had not the best year this year, but when he's at his best, he's a 40-goal scorer. So now put all of that together, and I even mentioned complementary pieces that perform well in the playoffs. You have a roster here that's contending for the Stanley Cup
Yeah,
in that
absolutely. And I
scenario.
think to I guess follow up question then, thinking smaller, they're battling with Carolina and the Devils too in the Metropolitan Division. Do you see them making a run at possibly a one seed in the Eastern or in the Metropolitan Division?
It's quite possible. The one thing I love watching is when a new piece like this comes in, how it rejuvenates the team or how it reinvigorates the team, right? Like how do they integrate? Maybe there's a learning curve. Maybe they instantly make an impact, right? And so if the impact is instant, maybe Tarasenko is just really happy to find a new home, and he's going to hit the ground running with, if it's going to be Panarin and Zibanejad or wherever he falls in the lineup, like then it's going to, like, if that clicks immediately, then you're going to have something very special there, and you could ride that wave for a long time. So I obviously I'm not concerned about the Rangers and their postseason aspirations. I don't think anybody is. I guess we could, speculate on where we think they might end up in the Metro standings, but even still, I'm not even concerned about that. I think this is such a great addition that I think no matter who they face, Carolina is going to be a problem for a lot of people. Let's be honest. Like no matter who they play against, they're going to be the best defensive minded team in the NHL. Like that's just the Rod Brindamore thing, right? Like they're just always going to be among the best defensive teams in the NHL because of that. So they're always going to be a powerhouse, but I'm not that concerned. I look at this roster. I'm like, this is a very, very good roster on paper. So good move by the Rangers, in my opinion. I think they leveled up. They didn't, they gave up a fair amount of of pieces there, including Sammy Blay. But honestly, this was a great move.
And we know Tarasenko is no stranger to MSG ice and making highlights on MSG ice. 2014, obviously that beautiful goal that he scored on Cam Talbot. But do you see him as a rental? Do you see him possibly trying to re-sign, or is this kind of like a one and done deal?
Yeah, I could see many situations. Obviously, cap will be a factor. Well, actually, let me pull that up. I probably should have done that before the interview, but let's take a look at cap friendly. Let's take a look at where they are right now. So their cap space is 200 grand, and they have obviously Tarasenko's UFA, Filipino's an RFA, Lafreniere, Kravtsov, Julian Gauthier, who else is Nico? Obviously UFA. So they don't have very many decisions this at the end of this season, right? Like really, Tarasenko is the only decision to make at the end of this season, right? And remember, that was with half salary retained by the Blues, right? So obviously, come off season, they're going to have to make some decisions. Those decisions might be more difficult if Tarasenko really, really becomes a critical piece of this offense. But if that's the case, then that becomes less and less likely that the team views him as a rental, right? So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason with him being the centerpiece on what might happen there, but they might have to clear a little bit of cap space in order for that to happen.